Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Before we talk about the effects and the impact of shaitan in every facet of our lives, from interpersonal to extrapersonal, we need to look at who shaitan is. We need to look at his origins. It's said that the time before Adam alayhi salam was created, and then the time of Adam alayhi salam before he received nubuwwah, before he became a nabi, this information is not very well known to us. This is from the matters referred to as ilm al-ghayb, knowledge of the unseen. This is a period of time and information that honestly we don't have a lot of ahadith about it. We do not have very many ayats that really talk about what happened before Adam alayhi salam, ate from the tree and all this different stuff. So the reason for that is because Allah does not give us more information that we need. Allah gives us information pertinent to what it is that we need in order to understand our relationship with Him. One of the fundamental features of the Quran and the Sunnah is that it's not encyclopedic. It's more of a synopsis. It's conclusive, short, summarized information. The Quran is a summary of everything, of all of the ayats that you need to know within the universe that we know and don't know, for you to understand and acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Lord and He is one. And the Sunnah is the consolidation of all of the actions and statements necessary to understand and apply what it means to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so that we may earn His pleasure in this life and reside eternally in His mercy in the hereafter. So excessive details about shaitan is not really needed. Like, we don't need to know his origin story. This ain't Bruce Wayne. We don't need to know about Prime Alley and Joe Cool and what happened after that. And then if the Flashpoint Infinity Crisis takes place, if Flash went this way. If you know what I'm talking about, may Allah forgive you. If you don't, may Allah forgive you. May Allah forgive us all anyways. But we don't need an origin story like Bruce Wayne, or Joker. We don't need all that. Rather, like, some details about shaitan, we just don't know. Like, for example, we don't know how shaitan looks. We don't need the description of that. The scholars, they comment on these things, but it's not really, out of trying to extrapolate from what we don't know into what we do know. It's just commentary. So as far as his origin goes, most of it comes from Israeliyat. And when we say Israeliyat, we do not mean the Bible, because these two words are not the same. They're not equal parts. Just because something is narrated from the people of the book does not mean that it came from the Bible. So amongst those origins is that Shaitan himself some said that he was the only jinn. Some said that he was one of a few jinns that actually obeyed Allah. From what I was able to find and discover, he was the only jinn that obeyed Allah when all of the jinn on planet Earth rebelled against the command of Allah. So Allah Jalla Jalal had sent malaika down from heaven to the earth and drove all of them into the oceans. Fun fact, we know more about space than water, but what does it mean when people say that? It means that we've only explored 2% of the water on the face of the planet. Meaning there's 98% of water on the face of the planet, like what's beneath the surface and how it works, and so on and so forth, that we actually do not have very much knowledge of. So are all of the shayateen and all of the jinn in water? Allah. Bermuda Triangle? Allah. It's going to be a lot of that when it comes to the origin. But so from this, we know that shaitan at one point was actually extremely righteous. In fact, it said that his ibadah, that the worship of shaitan was so great, that he worshipped Allah in every space, in the heavens and the earth. Meaning, if I'm standing in this room, I worship Allah there, I pray. Then I move a few feet over. I worship Allah in that space, and I move, and all of the heavens and the earth. So he wasn't just somebody who was a good Muslim. He was from the Abideen. He was putting in that work. And because of the level of his ibadah, that's actually what elevated him to the ranks of the malaika. That's what put him in that high status that no other being had reached the likes of that before. Now, obviously, we as Muslims, we know that shaitan is not an angel, but rather that because of his ibadah, because of his worship and his piety, that he had even reached the ranks of the angels. It said that he helped the malaika, he helped the angels whenever they were driving the shayateen into the water. Yeah. So first things first, when we look at the origin story of Iblis, first things first that we got to understand is, dude, he was pious. He was righteous at one point in time. You know, he was somebody who worshipped Allah and believed in Allah and followed the commands of Allah. Even though that's the case, he still ended up becoming a Shaytaan al-Rajim, Iblis. Iblis comes from the word ablasa, which means hopelessness. He became hopeless even though he had access to Allah's mercy, because he rejected it when he had the chance to actually ask for it. So this is a powerful lesson for us, and we're going to tie all of this into Shaytaan being unchained and what we see in the world today and what we see in our own actions, that with corrupt intention, even what is done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake can lead to Allah's wrath. Meaning when you do something that Allah is pleased with, you know the Quran and you recite it, you know ibadah and you do it. I donate in charity, I volunteer, I do X, Y, and Z. If you're doing those things for other than the sake of Allah, for one, it's going to eventually become exposed. And for two, just because you do good things, if the intention is corrupted at its fundamental core, then it will inevitably lead to Allah's wrath. Amongst the first three people to be dragged on their face into the hellfire are people who did things for the sake of Allah. They were, they defended Islam with their lives. They were from amongst the mujahideen and they died in the path of Allah, but they didn't do it for Allah's sake. There were those who were generous and they spent from what Allah had provided them on things, on worthy causes, but they didn't do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. And then depending on the narration that you read in this hadith Qudsi narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in one narration that it's the person who used to recite the book of Allah Jalla Jalal, a beautiful qira'ah of Quran, but they didn't do it for Allah's sake, dragged on their face in the hellfire. Or the person who used to seek knowledge and be seen as knowledgeable. They were your favorite sheikh, they were your favorite imam, they were your favorite ustadha, but they didn't do it for the sake of Allah. They only did it so people would say they're knowledgeable, only do it so that people would say that they're righteous, dragged on their face into the hellfire. Iblis is the first example of that. And so now we see anyone who follows the sunnah of Iblis will get the worst of fates. You see, Iblis in his origin, and this is where we get more details from the Quran and the Sunnah. In his origin, he witnessed, Adam alayhi salam before he even had life in him. He was looking at his greater, because Allah had given Adam alayhi salam a status that Shaytaan did not get. From this situation, we actually get three estimations by the ulama on what the first sin was. Some said the first sin was hasad, because Shaytaan was jealous of Adam. Why is Allah making something else when he has me? Why is Allah elevating him to this status when he has me? I've done all of the stuff in the heavens and the earth. I've done everything. Why do we need an Adam? He became jealous of Adam alayhi salam. The second is kibr, which kibr in the context of Islam is not merely to say that someone is arrogant, because arrogance has different shades. Arrogance has different looks. Arrogance, according to the definition the Prophet ﷺ gave us, the hadith in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, is when you look down on others. It's when you look down on people, you think you're better than them. Like at its most fundamental core, when I see you, I think I'm better than you, and you are nowhere near the same stratosphere. What does it mean to think you're better than someone? When we say that, we mean like my value is higher than yours, my opinion is greater than yours, my thoughts have more credence and more value than yours. When I speak, my words, they mean more than yours. My life, it has more value than yours. This is arrogance. To look down on other people because of their lineage, their wealth, their socioeconomic status, their skin color. It's arrogance. Or to feel like you're beyond reproach. Anytime you say something, don't you dare say something back to me. Hey, I have a suggestion for you. You take your suggestion, you can put it in your pocket. I just want to give you my opinion. Hey, I'll give when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. These are forms of arrogance. When you really look down on somebody and you feel like anything you say or do, it's beyond reproach. No one can tell me anything. Don't tell me to clean my room. You clean it. Like this type of mentality, these are forms of arrogance. But the probably the most dangerous form of arrogance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is to reject the truth when it's been made clear to you in favor of what you think and feel. Well, brother, this is the ayah. This is what it says in the Quran. My sister, this is the hadith, and this is what the scholars said about it. This is actually the proper tafsir of the ayah. The way you explained it is not the correct way, but this is what the ayah actually means. Well, no, there's a difference of opinion, and the different scholars said different things, and you can't tell me, and do you even know Arabic, and where did you start? Look, someone made a point to you, and you're going to take everything you can in your power to reject it and put it down? This is arrogance. So the third sin, and these are when we say the original sin, this is what the ulama said the first sin was, because this was the sin done by Iblis, like whenever we enter into, for lack of better phrasing, the Adam arc, because we don't really know about what the jinn did, and you know, when they spread the corruption in the earth, we don't know what that entails. So when we talk about the original sin, we're talking about beginning with Adam alayhi salam going forward with regards to Iblis. The third is unsuriya. This word, it normally means racism, right? So you have unsuriya and you have hizbiya. Hizbiya is normally used to refer to sectarianism. Sectarianism in the context of like nationalism, you know? Like we're all from this country, we're all of this nationality, because you know your nationality is not your race. It's just like your nationality. There's a difference. It's funny, we live in an age where people make distinctions in gender, but they don't make the distinction between race, nationality, and skin color. It's ironic, right? So a person will have an in-depth conversation on the differences in gender and sex and how people identify those things, but heuristically, we jump to the same snap conclusions when it comes to race, gender, and nationality. You're brown. That's Desi. You're Pakistani. It's all the same. No, those are three different things. Did you know that Latino Americans and Hispanics, they call themselves brown too? Did you know that? All right, let me not go too tangential. But unsuriya is different than hizbiya in that hizbiya is normally nationalism. Hizbiya is normally identifying as a sect, anything that differentiates you from the other. We're all black, they're all white. We're all Arab, they're all Desi. And you hear people, especially in the Muslim community, where there's a lot of closeted racism, you hear these types of terms and phrases, right? Unsuriya is actually racism. It's where you dislike someone specifically because they're different than you. And this is racism at its most fundamental definition. To dislike someone or to hate someone or to look down on someone because they're different than you. Unsuriya can also be used to describe xenophobia, which is essentially anyone who's not from you or your people. You don't like them, you hate them, you dislike them, you stereotype them, you put them down. So these three things, it said that Shaytaan, this was his first sin when it came to him and Adam. Let me ask you all in the chat, which sin do you think he did first? Brother Ahmed said, hasad, because it starts off as jealousy. But yes, hasad, of course, is destructive jealousy. It's when you look at something someone has and you hate that they have it. Ooh, those are cool glasses. Where did you get those glasses? Why did my glasses lean to the side and yours sit perfectly on your face? I wish you didn't have those glasses. See, that's how jealousy goes. Don't give hasad to my glasses. We're gonna have to do the Ruqya workshop again. Shaytaan wanted to be the Khalifa and he didn't get it. So he just got all of his brethren and all of his sisters driven into the oceans. Look what I did. Are you gonna make someone else to give them the earth? Now that's some deep psychological analysis right there. Because when you think about it in the context of everything we shared, you can begin to put those things together. So Sinezi said, I think jealousy feeling inside leads to the other two. So from this lens, jealousy leads to arrogance and racism, not arrogance leads to jealousy or racism. And you can see how one could be like the starting point and then the other two come from it, right? Or you start here, then you end up here, and then you end up there. Like I started off thinking I was better than you, but then when I thought about it, like I don't even like you because you're different than me. And then wait, you're different. So now I think I'm better than you. You can see how one can track into the other. So if you look at it through that lens, you can see like, okay, first he's jealous because Adam, if you start in Baqarah, and Adam alayhi salam is being given all of this stuff. He's being made the Khalifa. He's being taught the knowledge of all things. You know, you start in Baqarah and you start to see it like that. Then you see in, what is it, Surah Al-Hijr. Oh, wait. What is this thing being made out of mud right here? What is that? I don't like it. Maybe a little xenophobia kicks into a system a little bit, right? Well, I'm switching what Abdullah had said, right? But then that's where the kibr comes in. Hey, look, at the end of the day, I'm better than him. Look at me and look at him. Look at me and look at you. I'm better than you. Like, what are you talking about? So you can see that line of logic. When you begin to understand, like, why is it important to understand the psychology of Shaytan? Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him aduwwum mubin. He called him our open enemy. And when you have someone that is openly trying to take you out, you need to understand how they think. And this is actually where the enmity of Shaytan for Adam alayhi salam and all of his children came from. And we see how he inserts his sunnah, his mentality into the mentality of the children of Adam. Even though he hates us, some of us, we follow him. So when we look at it within that context, right? Shaytan, he believed he deserved the status over Adam because of everything that he did. So that's number one. He thought that he deserved what Adam was being given. Adam alayhi salam is being elevated. It's like when you think about it within the context of the ayat, Allah is making him. Okay, I'm made like this, but Allah is making something different. Malaika are made out of light. We're made from the edge of a smokeless fire, whatever that means. It's more animal light for you. And now this thing being made from mud. You know, Adam, in Arabic, it actually means like jet black. It means completely black. Now imagine for every racist who says, yeah, like I believe that Adam is the father of mankind. Well, the word Adam, it actually means jet black because this is his physical description. So imagine standing on the day of judgment, seeing your father Adam alayhi salam, all 60 feet of him alayhi salam. Wait, is it 60 cubits, 120 feet, or is it 60 feet, 30 cubits? I can't remember. But massive, bigger than everyone else because he's first man. And you see him and he's jet black. And you thought that you were better because you were a different, subhanAllah. I digress though, I digress. So Shaytan, he believed that he deserved that status, not just because he was made from a different khalq, but also because of everything he did. I've worshipped Allah so much. I've reached the status of the malaika. What living thing has done what I did? And then when all of my people, you know, were wrong, I did what was right and I helped the people who were right. And now you bring someone else, like what? So what he was versus what Adam was, now that becomes the point of contention. I did all this stuff and you picking this thing made out of dirt, out of mud? Like, come on. And not understanding why there was a need for more than himself. Allah has me. Why does he need him? What? Look at me and look at him. Like, I've done all this stuff, Allah. Why do you want this thing? He began to question the knowledge of Allah, the hikmah of Allah, the decision of Allah. And that became the source of his own downfall. As for which comes first, you know, so which was it? I'll do the cop out and say it was all three. He had hasad of Adam alayhi salam. He had kibr. He thought he was better than Adam alayhi salam, and he's a complete racist, xenophobic. This is different. I don't like it. So you can see all three in it. As for which came first, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. The test of sincerity came when Adam alayhi salam was given life. And Allah called all of the malaika to come and prostrate before Adam. Now, because Iblis had reached the level of the malaika, he was there too. So when this command came, Iblis was there too. So everything that Shaytan did to put him in this position to be with the malaika, it then became the moment that became his own downfall. Because all of the corrupt sincerity, all of his corrupted intention, it got put on blast in one go. When Allah told him to finally do something, all that good stuff that he had done before was gone. You know, it's kind of like I memorized the Quran, I'm reading the Quran, I'm praying my extra Sunnah prayers, I'm doing my extra fast, and I'm doing all this stuff. Well, hey brother, sister, did you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to do this? And now that one amr, that one command from Allah, it becomes the thing that undoes all of the stuff that you did before. Do we do what Allah tells us to do just to say that we do it? Or do we do it because we want Allah to be pleased with us? You see, taslim, submission to Allah, does not stop whenever you've done what you think is enough for Allah. No. It keeps going, because when Allah tells you to do more, sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. It doesn't stop when we say, oh, well, look, I've already done all this. Don't tell me that I have to wear hijab. Don't tell me that I have to pray 5 times a day. Don't tell me I have to fast in the month of Ramadan. Shaytaan, his sincerity got put on the spot. But I want you to take a moment with me and just close your eyes. Let's just take a moment to mentally visualize something together. Now, if you're still looking at the screen, you can see I closed my eyes, so you should do it too. All right. We've never ever seen an angel before, but we have the description of malaika. These are beings made out of light. Fun fact, human beings, we only see about 1% of all visible light. So what we see is visible light. 99% of the rest of the light, we don't even see it. So no wonder Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best that we don't see malaika. Think about what a being made out of the other 99% of light looks like. Now, in your mind, maybe you see a lot of colors. Know that the colors that you're thinking about in your mind, that's only 1% of all the colors that exist, because we don't see the other 99% of color, because we don't see the other 99% of light. Can you imagine what Jannah is like? All right, we save that mental visualization for another class. The greatest of all malaika, Jibreel al-Amin, alayhi salam. 600 wings filling the distance between the east and the west, dripping multicolored pearls and corals. He lands next to you. The Hamalat al-Arsh that's described in Surah Al-Ghafir, the ones that are making dua, verses 7 through 10, I believe, making dua for the believers. They carry the throne of Ar-Rahman. They carry Al-Arsh Al-Azim. They land next to you. You see Mikael, the angel that drives the rain on the face of the planet, gives glad tidings and gives good inclinations to the believers to do more. His helpers are the reason that rain comes down from the sky. His description is that when he makes tasbih, all of the creation is silent except for mankind, because of how beautiful his tasbih is. The Malik that's so serious that whenever Jahannam was created, he did not smile. He lands next. You have Israfil, the one who, when he puts his lips to the trumpet, everything is over. He lands next to you. There's so many angels in the heavens and the earth that the Prophet ﷺ described it as groaning under the weight of all of those malaika. Each and every single one of them land next to you. There are some malaika that were created in sajda, and the only thing they know is La ilaha illallah. They're all around you. These beings made out of light in their different forms with their different names, they're all around you, and you know them because you've worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with them. The ones who are standing by Allah's command, they come, they land, they stand. And Allah says prostrate. Allah says prostrate. Jibreel al-Amin, he goes down. Mikael, he goes down. Israfil, he goes down. Hamalat al-Arsh, they prostrate. Everyone, all of the malaika who are standing, they all prostrate. But you're the only one left standing. You can open your eyes if you didn't. You look around and you see all these beings of light are in prostration, but you're the only one standing. What type of psychology of a person exists that when they see everyone do something, they don't do it? You're in a classroom full of people, everyone is standing, your teacher says everyone sit, everyone sits down, but you still stay standing. You are walking down the street. I don't know if you guys ever seen this video in Japan of this like game show where they had like I think it was like 300 people running like coming down the street. They have like a camera at the end of the street, and they just have someone who's just walking down the street, and they would send the 300 people running down the street. If you have never seen this, you need to watch it because it's really funny. They all come running down the street, and the minute the person sees them all running, they just take off and they all run in the other direction. Except this one guy, when everyone came running, he just kept walking. He had his Kobe moment. There is a video of Kobe Bryant, not the one with the basketball flinch that some of you have seen, but all of his teammates are walking down the hallway, and they have like this guy in a suit, And he's just jumping out and like scaring the teammates, and they're all freaking out and stuff. But whenever he jumps out in front of Kobe, he doesn't flinch. He just kind of like scoots by him. He doesn't even react. He just like steps to the side and just walks around. What type of psychology exists where you see everyone do something and you don't do it? And we're not talking about hearing what Allah said. We're talking about hearing Allah say, prostrate. And seeing these beings made out of light prostrate. And you don't do it. If you don't know anything else about Shaytaan and his mentality, this image is enough for you. It's enough for you to know how Shaytaan really is. Oftentimes on Fridays we recite Surah Al-Kahf, and Allah in Surah Al-Kahf, the surah that's prescribed for you to recite at least once a week. This story, this part of this story is what's highlighted. That's a greater reflection. Maybe we do some tafsir class on Surah Al-Kahf and why that's in there and what that means. But that story, that part of the story, that's what's highlighted. He didn't do it. That's Shaytaan in a nutshell. Even though he was willing to do everything before this one thing, that's where he drew the line. So now tell me, chat, why didn't he prostrate? Anam said he was unhappy with what Allah chose. And when you think about the root of the issue and why he didn't do what Allah said, it's because he didn't like what Allah told him to do. Yeah, he was arrogant. Yeah, he was stupid. Yeah, he was jealous of Adam. Yeah, it was the kibr, the hasad, the unsuriya, the bil. It was all of those things. But at the end of the day, he wasn't happy with what Allah told him to do, so he just didn't do it. How many of us who know La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, we see something that the Quran says, the Hadith says, we see something that's clear in the Sunnah, and we just don't do it. Yeah, I don't like that, so there's a difference of opinion. He was not happy with what Allah chose. May Allah make us forever happy with what he decrees. Allahumma ameen. So he didn't prostrate because he was not happy with what Allah told him to do. And in that moment, he began to, first and foremost, he blamed Allah for his circumstances. We talked about this in the Asma al-Husna class. When we were talking about the Qadr wa Qada, and we talked about Adam, we talked about Shaytaan, we explained that Shaytaan was not blaming the Qadr for why he didn't prostrate. But that's, we have the recordings for that. If you want to watch that from last week's class, we can provide the links for you here, inshallah ta'ala. But he blamed Allah for commanding him something that he didn't want to do. Because you misguided me. You did this. You told me to do something that you knew I was never going to do. He began to blame Allah. How many of us blame Allah? Man, Fajr is too hard. It's too hard. If it was too hard, Allah would have never made you do it. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says He doesn't want for you usr, He wants for you ease. And that's about fasting in Ramadan. At the end of Surah Al-Hajj, and Hajj is not easy. At the end of Surah Al-Hajj, in the very last verse, the 78th verse, Allah says He did not put any haraj. He didn't put any difficulty in your deen. So praying Fajr, you're going to say that's too hard? Oh, hijab is too hot. It's too hard. It's hard. You're going to blame Allah for why you don't do what Allah told you to do? Getting up for Fajr is too difficult. Fasting is too hard. I got to take a test. It's too hard. I'm going to break my fast. I'm going to take a test. It's too hard. I'm going to break my fast. So first thing he did was he began to blame Allah for his circumstance. The second thing he did after that is he then used, okay, here's a quick question. Why did Allah answer Shaytaan's dua? Because Allah is Al-Mujib and answers anyone who calls upon him. Salaam alaikum. Oh my God. Oh God. Salaam alaikum. Oh man. Oh, I almost knocked this laptop off the stool. Oh my God. Because Allah is Al-Mujib and answers anyone who calls upon him. You know that answer was dope. For the Asma students, y'all know that answer was really good. Adam is out here killing it, man. We're going to make some special dua for Adam, inshallah. Yeah, that was amazing. Someone left whatever I said, so they left. To show that Allah, is not in need of Shaytaan to obey him. Mansur. That's deep, man. Y'all are getting deep out here. May Allah increase you in depths. Ameen. May Allah give you all the rusukh. Ameen. That's like deep-rooted, deep-seated understanding. So, Allah answered his dua for a few reasons. And we're gonna have to get Anam to start dropping our own classes because the Al Mujib answer, I didn't even think of that. SubhanAllah. Well, Allah is Al Mujib. He answers the dua of the one who calls on him. Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 186. We're gonna let Sister Roxana answer. Inshallah. Go ahead. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Now.
Dua of a wicked one is also, it's like a curse, like, because the shaitan itself is wicked. So
exactly.
Allah answers the wicked ones, and Allah answering their dua is also a curse sometimes.
Subhanallah. Jazakillahu khairan. As our sister mentioned, sometimes Allah answering dua, you make a dua for the bad, and you end up getting that too. We know that sometimes the people who are on the boat, they don't believe in Allah. They make dua to Allah, and subhanAllah, they get the dua answered. So even the people who disbelieve in Allah, sometimes they get the dua answered. But in this instance, Shaytan is al-Rajim. At this point, he becomes al-Rajim. The reason that Allah answers dua, there's a few different reasons that scholars give. One of the reasons is because he had done so much good before that Allah answered his dua in this moment. And that's a testament to the adl of Allah. Second reason is that because he made dua to Allah, Allah answered his dua. Whatever you want, if you want the life of this world hasten to you, if you want to hasten to your destruction, how many people you think wake up every single day praying that they become a music star or movie star? Or wake up making dua that, that they can do some stuff that's harmful to other people. They get on their knees and they pray. For those of you who watch UFC, this is not a fatwa, but those of you who watch UFC, sometimes you see these fighters before they get in the cage, they pray. They're about to go in there and punch somebody in the face. What type of prayer are you making? What type of prayer is that, right? So, well, in those situations, you see people, they make different dua, and Allah answers the dua. And when you look at the ayats and Surah Al-Isra, the people who want the life of this world, you're going to get it. It's going to be hastened to you. It's going to be rushed to you. You're going to see it like that, right? But for those of you who are looking for the akhirah, for those akbaru darajat, those greater ranks, there's something else waiting on you too. Also, the verses in Surah Al-Baqarah, those who make dua for the life of this world, they don't have anything in the hereafter, and they're going to get the fire. But for us, we ask Allah for the good of this life, the good of the hereafter. We ask Allah to save us from the fire, right? So this is a part of the reason why his dua was answered. Just for the sake of time, we'll stop with those two. But he used that opportunity to make dua in order to increase in evil. That's the crazy thing. You could have asked for mercy when our father Adam alayhi salam, when he wronged himself by eating from the fruit, he asked for Allah's mercy and he got it. If Shaytan had chosen Allah's mercy, then he would have gotten it too. But he didn't want that. He wanted something else. And this is also a part of the reason why Allah cast him out before he made the dua. That's a part of the reason why too. And another reason for that, some had explained, was that whenever he disobeyed Allah in the presence of the malaika and in the presence and what was happening in that moment, that was severe condemnation. It's kind of like a prophet coming to you with a sign. Allah sending a prophet to you to come with the sign. You don't accept the sign, so you get the adab. That was also another reason. He didn't need a Nabi. He was right there. He witnessed all of this stuff, and then he still refused. So then the adab, it came first. That's why it became al-Rajim first. Some of the people who try to refute Islam, they say Allah cursed him. Allah cursed him before he had the chance to repent. No. His mistake and what he asked for after was a testament to why he became a Shaytaan al-Rajim. He was throwing a tantrum. Yeah, he was throwing a temper tantrum too. And he had too much kibr to back out. Yeah, once he went that far, he wasn't going to go back. He was just going to keep plowing forward, just like that. And so instead of asking for forgiveness like Adam alayhi salam, becoming humble, as Zayd is mentioning, he went the other direction. So not just making that dua, but he also vowed to take out those whom Allah had favored over him. Okay, you want Adam over me? Bet. I'm coming for them. I'm coming for him. I'm coming for his kids. I'm coming for all of them. And you're going to find most of them, they're going to be ungrateful. And Allah tells us in Surah Al-Hijr that he responded to Shaytan. That's a path that leads straight back to me. Allah. That's Jabbar, Kabir, Muta'al, Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that we've looked at the psychoanalytical case study of Shaytaan, and maybe some of these things you've heard before, maybe some of the things you haven't, maybe the way you've heard this is different than ways you've heard it before, maybe you've heard better than this, but we just wanted to do, well, it was supposed to be quick, but it ended up taking about an hour, like 50 minutes, to just look at Shaytaan's origin, because in order to understand what it means for him to be unchained, you have to know who we're talking about. So in order to care about why he's unchained, we need to know who it is that was chained up in the first place. You know, Ramadan, it has 3 key features. Every single year, Ramadan has how many? 3 features. What is the first feature of Ramadan? The gates of Jannah are open. The gates of Jahannam are closed. And the shayateen are chained. 3 features of Ramadan. Every single year, same thing happens. But let's add a little bit of context to this in order to understand why the chains are needed in the first place, and to understand what it means whenever those features change. So number 1 is that Jannah, the gates of Jannah are open. The gates of Jannah are still open, but the circumstances have changed. It's different now. For example, our ability to strive, it changes. When you're in the month of Ramadan, your ability to strive is much different than your ability to strive outside of Ramadan. So that's the first thing that changes, is your ability to strive. The second thing that changes is the maxed out rewards. It changes because our state changes. Meaning, when you fast in the month of Ramadan, the reward for fasting is infinite. We don't even know what the reward is. Allah said, it's for me and I'm going to be the one that rewards it. We don't even know what that reward really looks like in our mind. So when you're fasting and you're reading Quran and you're spending in sadaqah and you're building wells, may Allah accept the wells. When you're doing all of this stuff in Ramadan, you know, taking all these classes, you know, we went online this year, so everyone and their uncle and their mama and their cousin and their sisters, everybody had classes. Everybody was doing stuff online in Ramadan. When you start to go to all those halaqaats and durus and khawatir and, you know, online khutbahs, I don't know what that means, but, you know, you start to do all this other stuff, it's like you're getting extra. You're thirsty, you're hungry, and you're seeking the knowledge, and you're listening to the lectures, and you're doing all this extra stuff. So the reward in Ramadan is maxed out. But now we're not fasting every single day. Now we're not in the month the Quran was revealed anymore. So now the reward, it also changes too. The Jannah is still there. The darajat, the high ranks are still there. The hasanat is all still there. But how we are has changed. And our mindfulness has also changed. That taqwa of fasting in the month of Ramadan has changed. It's changed. Whenever you only sin in half the day because you have to wait until you're done fasting to do something wrong, or man, all right, I'm not gonna watch that show. I'm gonna wait until after Maghrib to watch the Tiger King. I'm not gonna do it while fasting. You know, you cut your sin time down, and the reason why you do that is because of taqwa. I'm fasting. I'm not gonna fast, but once I eat the samosa and break my fast, I got some words for you. You know, even the dhikrullah, the amount of time you spend with Quran outside of Ramadan, it changes. You're not trying to do khatam of Quran. This year, more people connected with the Quran on their own than years before, because before you had to rely on the Imam to connect with the Quran. This year, if you didn't do it, then you didn't get it. So it's a different beast. So all of these things are the reason why the gates of Jannah being open, the gates are still open. They're not closing. But for us, our state has changed, and the way that we approach these things have changed. Now, number 2, which is the gates of Jahannam are closed, that's altered now. You know, the fire is banned on some people because of you know, the things that they do in this dunya, their status between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, you know, forbids the fire on them. They will never smell the fire, even if it's such and such distance. Like, you have these different types of ahadith. But one of the big differences is now those who died in Ramadan that would have been spared outside of it, they're not spared anymore. That. If you had died in the month of Ramadan and you were sinful, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but maybe you just go to Jannah. Allah forbids the gates, forbids the fire upon you. But that's not the case anymore. Now that we're out of Ramadan, that month of mercy, it's back to business as usual. Another thing too is the decorations of Jahannam that we avoided before, now we hasten to it. We have long hadith Qudsi where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is building Jannah and asking Jibreel to describe it. Okay, first he builds Jahannam, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tells Jibril, what do you think it is? He says, ain't nobody going to hear about that thing right there, except they're going to do everything they can to stay out of it. Then Allah started to decorate. Decorate it with everything that's pleasing to the nafs, everything that's pleasing to your shahwats, to your base self, and to your desires. And then he asked Jibril about it. He said, I fear that there's not going to be anyone except that they fall into it. But obviously, with the guidance of Islam, we stay away from that. In the month of Ramadan, you're avoiding those decorations, those urges, those feelings, the things that you would watch, the stuff that you would listen to, the people maybe even you hang out with, the stuff that you say, you avoid those decorations of Jahannam that's easy, but leads to a horrible end. Now, Ramadan's gone. The gates are open, and those decorations look amazing, so we start running towards it. And then again, the same thing is true. Our awareness, the taqwa factor of Ramadan, once that gets cut out, everything that we do to avoid, because you know, taqwa is protection. Taqwa is protecting yourself from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath by knowing what he's displeased with and staying away from it. That's a part of it. So now what leads to those 7 gates in Jahannam that's mentioned in Surah Al-Hijr, it's diminished. Our awareness of those things, it diminishes because our taqwa, it diminishes. So now what was once closed for us because we didn't do anything to end up in it, now it becomes wide open. And then Shaytaan Unchained. Back to play. They back. And when they come back with a vengeance. They come back with a vengeance. What does that mean? Wallahi, I swear by Allah, every single year, this is my 8th year of fasting in Ramadan. My 8th Ramadan, rather. I've been Muslim for 7 years, but this is my 8th Ramadan. And man, I swear, every year they come out faster. Before Ramadan and after Ramadan, it's always the same thing. My first Ramadan, that was when the Boston bombings took place. Just before Ramadan, it's like a couple months before Ramadan. And they were doing like armed protests outside of Masajid and all types of stuff. It was crazy. Shaytaan are going in. And then after Ramadan, well, I was too busy with my own personal stuff to think about what was happening in the world. I started to live under a rock during that time. I went by a code named Patrick Starr. I didn't know what was happening in the world. I'm not even going to pretend to. But I want you to, take the time to think to yourself. Every year before Ramadan and after Ramadan, before Ramadan, after Ramadan, there's always some stuff. But this year before Ramadan, it was COVID. People buying toilet paper en masse and fighting over, toilet paper in the aisles. Min al jinnati wan nas. Shaytaan, they getting it in over the toilet paper. You see how tricky Shaytaan is? He's gonna get you to stab somebody over toilet paper. How? After, well, all you gotta do is open social media. You're gonna see it. So an analogy that I've used often when it comes to Shaytaan and being chained in the month of Ramadan, it's like stirring a drink. Maybe use this. If I take this and I stir it and I swish it around, I'm swishing it and swishing it, and then I stop. You see how it still moves? That is 11 months out of the year. Shaytaan are just stirring you up. And then it's still moving. Still get the halaqaat. And the month of Ramadan is a time where it starts to slow down. Starts to slow down because they're in chains. And then as soon as they get out, they get right back to work, stirring you up. And what do they stir you with? They stir you with sins. They stir you with anger. They stir you with all of these different things, with distractions and so on and so forth. And 1 month out of the year, it becomes incumbent upon us to stop the stirring, to make our souls still, to try to slow it down as much as possible. So now Ramadan becomes a launching point, not a landing zone, for us to come out settled, calm, spiritually sound, not all rattled and shaken up. So what's the first thing Shaytaan does when he comes out of his chains? He tries to shake you all the way up. Let me distract you with as much stuff as I can so that you forget everything you were focused on, all of your goals in Ramadan. I'm going to do all this. And when I come out of Ramadan, I'm going to fast for 6 days of Shawwal. How many of you still haven't gotten them 6 days in or haven't even thought about it? Well, I was going to, but after Eid, and subhanAllah, it's Shaytaan. He's going to come and he's going to stir you up immediately. See, the Shaytaan, when they come unchained, they start to make up for lost time. And they start to strive to undo all of the good habits that you had in Ramadan. Oh, after Ramadan, I'm gonna eat like this. I'm gonna start exercising. I'm gonna this, that, and the third. Shaytaan, he comes out and he takes you all the way off your spot. So how does he do that? With renewed distractions. And as you can see, we got some asterisks attached to that. Just take snapshots of you, not the world, you, before Ramadan, during Ramadan, and after Ramadan. What do you notice about your mentality, your spirituality, your focus, your goals? Before Ramadan, I'm gonna go into Ramadan. I don't have to go to the masjid and all these da'wats and parties and stuff like that. I'm gonna get it in. I'm gonna do me this year. It's all about me and Allah. We're gonna make it happen. In Ramadan, first week, I got hypoglycemic headaches because I've been fasting. I ain't prepared for this, but it's okay. By the time you get to the last 2 nights, you start to feel good. Start to see them wells coming in. Who is he talking about wells? If you know, then you know. May Allah bless you for knowing that. Me. You start to, really get your worship up. I'm reading more Quran. I'm starting to do X, Y, and Z. And then after Ramadan, I'm gonna do X. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And then boom. Now all of a sudden I got to think about a bunch of things that do not increase me spiritually, but distract me mentally. Shaytaan is so tricky. If you think, like, if Shaytaan could get Adam alayhi salam out of the best place ever, then don't think that Shaytaan can't easily come out and get you out of your Ramadan mentality. You see, the devil's greatest trick, as it says, I'm from Kentucky, so we got a ton of euphemisms like this. The greatest devil trick is convincing people that he doesn't exist. And we as Muslims, we know Shaytaan exists, but we don't understand the need to chain him. Why do they need to be put in chains? Because if they weren't in chains, you would never be able to benefit from Ramadan as much as you do. That's why Allah chains them. If they weren't in chains, then you wouldn't get some reprieve. You wouldn't get some respite from constantly being attacked by your open enemy who swore he had one chance to make dua. Oh Allah, just make this like this never happened. Oh Allah, just forgive me. I know I messed up. Oh Allah, just take me out of this situation and put me in Jannah so I don't have to think about this. We'll deal with this later. Allah, just give me 5 minutes, please. He could have asked for anything. He said, no, give me life until the end of time, so that I can take all of these people that you created and that you favored over me, so I can send them to hell. That's my goal. People living their best life on the internet, even though that's not really living because it's not in real life anyways. And Shaytaan out here living his best life unchained. Finally, I'm back in black. Well, in black, like the color. People are so sensitive, you get offended by little things like that. That's Shaytaan written all over. We're gonna talk about distraction tricks too. Not understanding his hatred for mankind. We don't understand Shaytaan, he actually hates you. He's not your friend. He hates you and he shows it. Whenever you oversleep, he urinates in your ear. When you miss the event for Fajr and stuff, he ties knots into your neck. What is that? That doesn't even sound good. Tying knots into people's necks, urinating in their mouth or going into their mouth when they yawn, laughing at you when you're tired, when you yawn, when you're like, oh, Shaytaan, he comes and laughs at you. That wasn't a real yawn, so inshallah he ain't laugh at me. Because we laugh at him by praying in the last third and making dua and stuff like that. The believer, one of the ulama, he said something beautiful. He said, the believer exhausts the devil because you always doing stuff that just doesn't even give him any leeway. But for everyone else, they just doing everything that just makes them strong. See, we don't understand the reality of what it is that he's driving us towards, which is the fire, which is destruction in this life and the next. And so when his greatest trick is convincing you that he's not doing anything, well, now that's why we need to talk about Shaytaan Unchained. That's why we're talking about Shaytaan Unchained. It's easy every single year to forget about the one who, even when we're sinning, he remembers us. Or even when sinning, Shaytaan remembers us. Shaytaan is a type of devil that even in the midst of being condemned to eternal damnation, he said, you know what? I'm not going to forget about the children of Adam. Let me get them. Please. I'm going to come to them from every which way I can. I'm going to take every single one of them to hell with me. That's Shaytaan in a nutshell. Even when he was being called al-Rajim, even when he earned the title of Iblis, he said, yeah, that sucks for me, but you know what's going to really suck? It's going to suck for the children of Adam because I'm coming. Each year we do so much in Ramadan and watch it all get undone piece by piece. It's systematic. Shaytaan is he's measured, he's meticulous, he's methodical. Okay, you want to start fasting more? All right, let me go ahead and make you start eating more. Okay. Oh, you want to be healthy? All right, let's go ahead and kill that. You're going to start running? All right, let's make sure that we make you nice and busy. You want to be fit? You want to do X, Y, and Z? That's Shaytaan in a nutshell. And maybe, so yeah, every year we see him undo step by step all of these things for us, and we don't acknowledge the role that he plays in it. I'm just so sad. I'm just so tired. I'm just so this. I'm just so that. And Shaytaan is like, and I'm just behind all of it, trying to get you all the way hemmed up. You see, in order to truly reap the benefits of Ramadan, beyond Ramadan, see what I did there? We have to acknowledge the first thing that happens when Ramadan ends, and that's Shaytaan becoming unchained and going right back to work. So now we need to know our enemy. We need to know our open enemy, Shaytaan. So I've listed here the 6 traps of Shaytaan. The first trap is kufr and shirk. That's numero uno. If he can get you to disbelieve in Allah or to associate partners with them, he's good. But kufr and shirk doesn't just come in the form of atheism and worshiping Jesus. It has tiers to it. So maybe he can't get you to do shirkul akbar, like the greatest form of shirk. Maybe he can't get you to do that. But what he will get you to do is pick and choose your deen. You know, I'm feminist here, but I'm Muslim there. I'm Arab here, but I'm Muslim there. I'm American here, but I'm Muslim there. You start. How are these things equal? How is your gender equal to you being a Muslim when Allah called you Muslim first? It's Muslim, then everything else. We identify through our iman. We don't make our iman identify through titles and labels. That's not how this deen works. So whenever he can get you to make shirk in your deen, or, you know, I believe in this, but I don't believe in that. You know, I believe, so now you're going to take your belief and compare it to what Allah told you to believe in, what the Prophet ﷺ said believe in. That's how he gets you. That's that kufri, shirky, turkey, gobble type of approach that he takes. So we know in the grave we'll be asked 3 questions. So sometimes he gets us to have kufr in these 3 areas. If you really believe and love Allah, then how do you show it? Compared to how you show your friends on the internet how much you love what they're saying and doing. Some of you love your the people that you subscribe to on the internet so much that the minute that they drop their video, you will drop everything in order to watch what they do. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you from nothing and gave you life and gave you Islam. What are you doing to show that you care? What are you doing? Islam, is it your deen or is it my deen? Like, is your deen, your way of life, is it truly Islam? You know, we love in da'wah to say Islam is a way of life. How do you show it? By only when you pray, is that your way of life? Only when you go to the masjid and socially distance pray in Jumu'ah, is that your way of life? Only when it's convenient to talk about Islam, that's your deen? So everywhere else, it's not your deen. Fortnite is your deen. YouTube is your deen. Netflix is your deen. Boyfriend, girlfriend, secret bae is your deen. Watching inappropriate stuff on the internet, that's your deen. My non-Muslim friends, that's really my deen. What is your deen? Because if Shaytaan can get you to make kufr and shirk in those areas, then he's winning. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you're going to cherry pick the sunnah? Well, yeah, it was a different time, but, you know, I do, pray. So that sunnah is timeless, but the other stuff is not? Yeah, I fast in the month of Ramadan, but, you know, that other stuff, it's just different. That's just a different thing. So the Ramadan thing, no, that's timeless. The worship side is timeless, but the mu'amalat and the akhlaq and all of this other stuff that doesn't work, the general actions that you're supposed to adhere to and your manners as a Muslim, that's a different time. Okay, so you're gonna pick and choose the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ is the best of creation, but you're gonna venerate Jake Paul and the Ace family and all these losers on YouTube. Wallahi, they're losers. They can have all the money and followers in the world, but if they do not follow the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, then what do they have? LeBron James and Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and football and MMA, and you love all that. Watching Tati videos and the makeup tutorials and henna, those little henna gifts where they put the henna on the hands real fast, and you're like, you're just watching the stuff. You take that sunnah and you drop the sunnah of the best of creation. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know, he told Umar, you don't have iman until you love him more than you love your own self. Do we love him more? And what does that really look like? And how does this impact our thoughts and our minds and our feelings? See, if Shaytan can get you to make kufr and shirk in any of these three areas, even if it's not the big one, but just a little one, then he's winning. Bid'ah. You know, bid'ah is not just spinning in a corner in the dark with a candle lit, humming to yourself. Some bid'ah is really, really obvious. Other bid'ah is a little less obvious. Adding to the deen that is already completed and perfect with your own deen. This is a form of bid'ah. Using ignorance as an excuse to add where knowledge has already been clarified. Well, you know, this hadith says, brother, the hadith, it does say that, but that's not what it means. It's like when the Khawarij used to come to Ali ibn Abi Talib and they used to say, the hukm is only for Allah. They would quote the verse from Surah An-Nahl. They would say it to him, hukm, rulings, they're only for Allah. He said, what you said is the truth, but what you seek from it is batil. What you said is true, it's the haqq. But what you want from it is falsehood, it's fake. It's not real, it's not the deen. So sometimes people use ignorance as an excuse to add to where knowledge has already been clarified. This is a form of bid'ah. You're innovating, you're adding something to the deen that isn't there, it's not in knowledge. Or you reject what you don't understand. Islam is everything except what I don't get. So you have a new version of Islam, it's different. Or to speak without knowledge. How many people are talking about tafsir? How many people are commenting on ahadith? How many people are twisting the statements of the ulama, of the salaf, of the sahaba, of the actions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to fit some narrative on social media? Is the deen what you want it to be in 2020, or is it what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed for it to be before we even knew what year it actually was, before we even had life? So now are we going to make our opinion equal to knowledge and proofs and the usul, the foundational understandings necessary to get there? Because that is a form of bid'ah. You've innovated in the religion. You've made your opinion equal to qala Allah wa qala Rasuli. Yeah, Allah said this, and you know what I think? Who cares what you think? If it was based on your thoughts, none of us could be saved. But Allah is the most just, so we rely on what He revealed in order to be saved. Or making or using illusory criteria to cherry pick rulings. Meaning, you use these delusional understandings in order to say, well, you know, there's a difference of opinion here. There's a difference of opinion. Well, you know, there's different scholars that say different things, and your voice gets high pitched and your voice starts to crack because you're innovating in how we understand the deen by coming up with some weird criteria to say, well, I do this, but I don't do that. Well, some scholars said this and some scholars said that. You can't even name 5 scholars who said 5 different things, but you're going to talk about the scholars having differences of opinion? Innovating in matters of the deen. Al-kaba'ir, major sins. You know, like doing the OD, omega haram, and you know it's haram, but you try. Still, it's willful indulgence. Willful indulgence, my bad. It's willful indulgence in evil. Yeah, I know I shouldn't watch this stuff, but whatever. I know I shouldn't curse. I know I shouldn't have this secret relationship where, you know, we stay up late and we text and we talk. I know I shouldn't have a secret, babe, but, you know, whatever. I'm going to just do it. You see, Shaytan finds a way to make the worst things under the sun sound awesome. When you have that haram relationship with the opposite gender or the same gender, you are losing something that you may never ever be able to get back. But just for your desires, just for a feeling, just for a relationship that won't last longer than maybe even your collegiate career. You know, people who have these secret relationships, they don't even make it to a bachelor's degree in those relationships. They barely even get to an associate's degree before either one of them or both of them go crazy and they end it. And you're going to justify it because Shaytan makes the worst stuff sound amazing. Watching this video, doing this in private, talking like this when you're with your non-Muslim friends, but acting like this when you're with the Muslims. The effects of al-kaba'ir are hidden. Like the effects of those major sins are hidden by its main supplier, and the only one who deals in major sins is Shaytan. As-saghair, or the isyan, the minor sins, this disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, I've seen it attributed to Ibn Mas'ud and some of the other Sahaba, but they say in our lifetime we used to see sins as mountains hanging over our heads ready to crush us. But now we see people who look at sins like a fly that they just need to shoo away. Brother, that's haram. Sister, you can't do that. That's un-Islamic. You see, when you begin to rationalize disbelief, it makes it easy to do things that are minor sins. It's just a minor sin. You don't go to Jahannam forever. You begin to rationalize it. And in other cases, we give up on quitting lying, quitting watching inappropriate stuff, quitting, listening to these disgusting lyrics. We give up on quitting. I can't give up. I can't stop. So I might as well just stop trying to stop. One of the greatest means of shaitan is minimalism. Just do the least that you can. You go from the month of Ramadan of doing as much as you can to, man, this is good enough. I'm doing pretty good. You know, there's a slippery slope to minimalism. You go from doing as much as you can to doing just enough to doing this is the best I can do to not doing anything at all. And that's that Ramadani Islam. In Ramadan, I'm a Muslim, and outside of Ramadan, I'm not. I only grind 1 month out of the year for my deen. Can you imagine projecting this into other aspects of your life? I only study 1 day out of the school year for my education. I only go to college 1 out of the 4 years to get a bachelor's degree. You can see how you will fall short in those areas. I only pay attention while driving 10% of the time. See how that works out for you. We don't project this into any other part of our deen, but we do it here. And last but not least, from the 6 traps of shaitan is being a halal addict. It's not haram. It's not haram. I can play video games. It's not haram. I can watch this. It's not haram. There's nothing haram in it. There's no haram this. There's no haram that. You do so much halal stuff that you never do anything good. And coming up with zeros every single day is still losing. Now, again, project this into the rest of your life. I'm not going into debt, but you're not making any money. I'm not failing, but you're not passing either. So only with the deen do we take this approach, this type of approach. And the attacks of shaitan, the difference between a trap and an attack is traps are lying in wait for you. Attacks are constantly coming at you. The attacks of shaitan are 3. Ghafla, heedlessness. Sometimes the heedlessness is deliberate. It's a deliberate dismissal. I don't want to think about that. That's too complicated. Sometimes the heedlessness is just absent-mindedness. Oh, dang, I didn't know. Sometimes it's a mix of the two. Or ajla or tahawwur, which is hastiness, it's recklessness, it's thinking and doing stuff, it's jumping to conclusions, it's rushing to speak and act and feel, it's rushing to react before you reflect and think about what it is you're doing. Welcome to the internet, where everyone reacts and everyone is jumping to conclusions. You know, for the sake of time, I won't tell this story. But something happened. I told the story at a barbecue yesterday. Socially distanced a little bit. We were distanced socially, so alhamdulillah. But anyway, you know, some people heard that this was supposed to be about Black Lives Matter. They saw the flyer and they concluded, hey, look, Shaytaan, Black Lives Matter, this is wrong. Like, man, if only they knew it was a black revert giving a talk. On the internet, you say one thing wrong, or you say one thing and people will make it wrong. React. Number 1 reason, or number 2 reason why I don't have any social media. Because in a place where everyone is just being reckless and hasty, how can anything productive ever truly be done? Besides a cool hashtag that dies in a week. And the last attack of shaitan is ghadab. We all know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where the man came and said, give me advice, and he said, let talk, don't get mad, don't get angry, don't get angry, don't get angry. Don't get angry doesn't mean don't feel anger. It means don't act in a state of anger. And when you look at the effects of anger, it's very, very clear. You try to justify what's unjustifiable. Well, you know, everyone is just angry, so they're just saying their feelings. Who told you that it's okay that when you're angry that you can speak in anger or talk in anger or do things while you're mad? When the Prophet ﷺ said, no, don't. That's the hidayah. That's the guidance from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see, when a person gets mad, they can make excuses when there is none. Well, you know I shouldn't have cursed, but I was mad. You shouldn't have cursed. It doesn't matter that you were mad. I know I shouldn't have punched the wall. I know I shouldn't have flipped out, but I was mad. You shouldn't have done any of those things. Being angry is not an excuse. Out of all the ways, and for those of you who attended our Ruqya workshop where we talked about possession and all of this stuff, one of the easiest ways to get possessed by shaitan is to get angry. But we saved that for another. Now, Shaytaan Unchained and how it relates to current events. Because in the flyer, it says, you see this all around us. So now I have to give the wheel for people who are overly sensitive and thinking that, oh, well, if you say Shaytaan in the current times, then you must be talking about Black Lives Matter. No, absolutely not. You see, this is Shaytaan in motion. Shaytaan is all about the herd mentality. Everyone is consumed with this one thing, so it must be the most important thing in the world, right? If you died tomorrow, you would stand before Allah with the actions that you did. That is the most important thing right now. and doing what you can with your knowledge of the deen, and then projecting that into the world around you, that's the most important thing you can do right now. Sheeple get herded to the slaughter. Shaytan loves to get everybody together to do the same thing because it's easier to justify the actions. Oh, well, you know, we all just went here and we all just did this and we all retweeted it and we all liked and followed it. Have any of you ever thought that it may be haram to watch someone die on video? Like to just for recreation watch someone die in a video? Wallahi al-azim, I've not seen the video where George Floyd died because I don't know. I don't know if it's permissible for me to watch something like that. I can't give you that answer. But how many people just watched it because everyone watched it? The herd mentality. Flip it out on the internet because everyone is doing it. Hashtag retweet, hashtag quote tweet, blah, blah. Let's cancel people who don't agree with what we say on the internet. Herd mentality. See, this comes from acting and doing things without guidance. Allah gave us the guidance. Why not look to it to see what it says? And then speaking about Allah, that which you have no knowledge. This is, some scholars said, to say about Allah what you have no knowledge is worse than shirk. Well, you know, this hadith says, you don't even know what the hadith means. How dare you use the hadith to validate something that you want to say on the internet? Well, you know, Allah says in the Quran, you don't even know the ayah. How dare you use that to explain your own personal view in this moment? It's one thing to reflect and use those things for reflection. It's another thing to use them as explanations when we don't have any knowledge. But we are consuming so many things that we're not processing exactly what it is that we're consuming. And that's social media in a nutshell. I can't even say one person. I've had multiple people who are my students, come to my youth programs or this, that, and the third, sending me links to what some sheikh is saying on Facebook or Instagram, or what some person, some Twitter war, some Instagram argument that's taking place in the comment section. Who cares? It's social media. That's not real life. You know, on social media, people project lives that are not even theirs. They take pictures of themselves with filters. They project their best selves on the internet. That's not really even them. Why would you suddenly think that they're being sincere about this crazy thing that's happening? When crazy stuff isn't happening, they say and do stuff that doesn't even reflect them in real life. Why would we now use this as the mirror to the sincerity of a person on the internet or on social media, when social media is a known, statistically proven ground where people act like other than themselves constantly? So now Shaytan has managed to take people doing good and still take people doing good. As long as you're doing good, that's all that matters. Where did Allah say that in the Quran? That sounds like maybe something Shaytan will put in the hearts of the people. So what's our plan of action in the face of all of this? Just 3 simple steps beyond Ramadan. This week will not be like next week, but we have to make this week. So this week's plan of action will be different than the upcoming classes, inshallah. But first things first, you got to rechange Shaytan, man. The only way you can rechange Shaytan outside of Ramadan is to take Ramadan with you outside of Ramadan. Fast. That's a part of chaining him. Taqwa is not just a once a year sort of thing. Have taqwa now. All those classes and all the stuff that you were doing before, do it now. Do it now. Know the traps and attacks of Shaytan. We just mentioned 9 things that Shaytan is actively doing. Then see where you're getting ate up at. Where are you getting destroyed by Shaytan? How is he wrecking you today? We mentioned 9 things. I'm sure you could look at that and be like, yeah, I am overreacting on the internet right now. Yeah, I do get mad. Yeah, I do kind of look down on people. Yeah, I do have some major sins in me. I'm a little bit arrogant. I'm a bit heedless. Nowhere in life do we exercise less pragmatism than with Islam. Wallahi, you don't see Muslims act with less logic in anything in their lives than with Islam. If you have a business and you're losing money, you're going to take some time to evaluate how you can recoup your loss. your losses. If you are in school and your grades are suffering and you're trying to graduate and live a meaningful meaningful life does not mean educated, but you're trying to get your degree so that you can have it for whatever reason you want it. If your grades are suffering, you're going to see what you can do to graduate, to get a higher GPA, to get into medical school, dental school, whatever. Why don't we do that with Islam? When my iman is low, why don't I do a diagnostic check on my ibadah, on my akhlaq, on my sadaqah? Whenever, I'm falling into sin after sin after sin and I'm missing salawat, why don't I go make tawbah? Why don't I go, clean up what's between me and Allah, my parents, my family, my friends, my habits, those sins? So be honest and do that diagnostic report. But don't be too critical, because Shaytaan, he loves it when you doubt yourself and he loves it when you defeat yourself. So you need to build the fortress of your iman and the fortress of your ibadah, because Shaytaan is your enemy. So he's seeking to seize that castle of your faith every single day. And we're going to talk about spiritual fitness next week, inshallah, and what that means. But also, if you're going to build that fortress, that means that you have to protect it. So Shaytaan, he doesn't need to bother with a destitute house. Shaytaan is not going to rob a poor home. Rather, it's the mansions of Iman with the Quran and with the deen and the sincerity. These are the houses that he's going to try to break into and rob blind. So fortify yourself. These are all ways that we can retain Shaytaan outside of this. For everyone who joined us online and who's watching this, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you. If I said anything wrong, that's from me alone and our open enemy Shaytaan. And anything that I said right and that was beneficial, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and all guidance is with Khairul Hadi, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we ask Allah to give us the tawfiq in chaining our desires, in chaining our shahawat, and in chaining the shayateen that misguide us. And we ask Allah to give us the tawfiq over our open enemy, Shaytaan al-Rajim. Allahumma ameen.